Today we're going to talk about the human hair shaft, its layers, their functions, and how they impact the health of your hair as it pertains to you being able to hold on to moisture, hydration, you having dry hair, or your hair just always breaking and snapping. When you learn all of the functions of the human hair shaft, you can get a better understanding of how to manipulate it, how to or not to manipulate it. So if you want to get to the bottom of this, then make sure you stick around to the end of this video. New here, hi, hello, how are you? My name is Cynple and I am a cosmetologist, trichologist, research scientist, herbalist, and owner of Cynple Apothecary LLC. When you look at the hair and you see breakage or anything of that nature, the first thing you want to do is run to a product, because you think that all you have to do is put a product on your hair and that is gonna fix it. But that's not true, because there are 3 layers of the hair shaft, and to properly fix the hair shaft, you have to go deep into these layers. So let's hop into them. The first layer is the layer that most of you are familiar with, which is the cuticle. Today we're gonna go over the cuticle, the cortex, and the medulla. But first, let's hop into the cuticle. Now, the structure of the first layer, the cuticle of the hair shaft, is constructed several layers of dead cells flattened. It's composed of several layers of dead hair cells overlapping and layered on top of each other. They form in the type of pattern like the shingles on a roof. These cells are dead and contain fibrous protein and keratin. Now, most of the time, whenever you go on social media and you talk about the human hair shaft, everybody's like, oh my God, the hair shaft is dead, the hair shaft is dead. No, it's not. Only the cuticle layer is, because the cuticle layer is constructed of dead hair cells. But let's keep going. Before we hop into that, let's talk about some of the key constituents of the cuticle layer of your hair shaft. The first key constituent is keratin. Keratin is a thick, fibrous protein, and this is what provides the strength and resilience to your hair. It's the main protein of the cuticle layer of the hair shaft, as well as the cortex. Lipids. Lipids are fatty substances that help to give the hair's cuticle a waterproof-like appearance or property. This also reduces the friction between each hair strand, reducing friction and tangling, matting, and breakage. This is what aids your hair in its smoothness and shine. Number 3 for the cuticle layer is going to be pigment. Though the cuticle layer itself doesn't contain pigment, it plays a significant role in the way that light interacts with the hair shaft. This is going to affect the hair's appearance or color. A lot of people think that their hair is thinning out, but the reality of it is they just have a really, really weak cuticle layer. And sometimes when you do certain practices, you will end up strengthening the cuticle layer of your hair shaft, which in return will give you the resemblance of thicker, more fuller hair. So what are the purposes of the cuticle? Well, one of its number 1 roles is protection. The cuticle acts as a protective barrier for the cortex and the medulla. It protects them against UV radiation, different pollutants, and all other things. That's why I'm so against things like the lock method, you sleeping in conditioner, you wetting the hair or having wet hair all the time, because the cortex of the hair shaft, because the cuticle of the hair shaft's main objective is to protect. And if your hair is wet, the cuticle's open. It cannot do its job if your hair is wet. You are not helping your hair in any way, shape, or form wetting it on a regular basis. But I digress. We'll keep going. The reason that it is so very important to make sure that you are not leaving your hair wet is because your hair's cuticle is also the thing that God built into your body for you to hold on to hydration and moisture. The cuticle, when it is able to open and close at will, because it's not locked down with the lock method or things like it, your body is able to release release and hold on to moisture and hydration as it needs to. It's so important that you have a healthy balance of moisture and hydration. Most people use the two terms interchangeably, but they're very different. Check the link in the description box below. Watch this video to learn more about the difference between hydration versus moisture, shine and smoothness. What's so crazy, most people go and buy different hair products, and you are sucked into this constant wheel of products because you're always searching for shine and smoothness in a bottle, where in reality the only way that you can have shiny and smooth hair, a cheap way, is if you maintain your body's cuticle, your hair's cuticle. When the cuticle of the hair shaft is smooth and flat, it reflects light. This is what's giving your hair that radiant shine that's reflecting light and the smoothness from the cuticle being flat, not locked, but just flat and able to open and close when it needs to. Next up is thermal protection. The cuticle layer acts as a protection against hair products, blow dryers, flat irons. But again, if you're layering products and products on top of it, you are weakening the cuticle. If the hair is wet, the cuticle's open, the hydrogen bond is broken, so your hair is at its weakest whenever it's wet. Like, it's common sense, girl, I'm not making it up. Everybody's kind of scared of heat tools because heat tools can be very damaging. It can break the hair's cuticle down when used wrong. But let's move on to the cortex. Originally, the reason that I'm making the video. Now, next up, this is important. Now we're going to talk about the cortex of the hair shaft. The cortex of the hair shaft is that second layer of hair. And you know how I'm always talking about the hydrogen bond, the salt bond, the disulfide bond. This is where all of the important stuff lives. This is where the bonds live. This is where the melanin lived, all of that. So let's talk about it. This layer of the hair shaft makes up the majority of your hair shaft's core of strength. It's composed of elongated cells full with keratin and a couple of other things that we're going to talk about. This is the pattern that these cells are arranged in. Let's talk about some of the key constituents of the cortex. Just like the cuticle, keratin is one of the main components and constituents of the cortex of your hair shaft. It's organized into microfibers that are completely in control, mainly the thing that's in control of the strength, the elasticity, everything as it pertains to your hair shaft. This is what gives your hair its flexibility. The second key constituent of the cortex is melanin. And melanin is the thing that's going to determine if whether or not you have black or blonde hair. The amount of melanin you have living within the cortex of the hair is going to determine the color of your hair. And again, if you are getting hair color, if you're getting it lightened, this is why it's important to go to a professional, because the professional is trained to be able to break down disulfide bonds and put them back together in a healthy manner. But let's keep going. These are the forms of melanin that are controlling the color of your hair. Next up is going to be sulfide bonds. Now, when I say disulfide bonds, a disulfide bond is two sulfur linkages. A sulfur to sulfur linkage, a sulfur to sulfur linkage, thus the word disulfide bonds. So when you see people putting onion juice in their hair and all of these other little things, they look at bits and pieces of other videos or other scientific information, and because they know that onions have the most incredible amount of natural sulfur, they think you put that in your hair and it instantly strengthens the disulfide bond, and it does not work like that. These are strong bonds, again, between sulfur. Contains the amino acid cysteine. Cysteine, which lives inside of the keratin molecule. They also provide strength and elasticity to the hair shaft. Different chemical treatments like perms or relaxers like perms or relaxers end up breaking down the bonds, reformatting them and neutralizing them safely in their new form. Remember, this won't be a permanent form. It's only until your hair starts to grow out. Once you have new growth, then it's going to be back to normal, but that's how it goes. Hope it makes sense. Next up in the cortex is going to be water and lipids. The cortex contains some water and lipids that lend to the elasticity and flexibility of the hair. So again, what is the function of the cortex of the hair shaft? The cortex is going to provide the strength. So when you have tight braids that you need to pop a Tylenol for, or when you have a ponytail that's too tight, any type of tension, pulling or yanking that you're doing to the hair shaft, the cortex of your hair shaft is what is holding on to your hair. And when your hair starts to thin out, the cortex is kind of giving up on life because you popping Tylenols thinking that that's helping. All you've done is numb the pain. The cortex is still fighting, right? Because pain is the signal that your body is sending, telling you that something is wrong. So when you numb the pain with pain medicine, you just mute the warning. But you still gonna be bald head, but you just can't hear them telling you you're gonna be bald head. Next up is going to be color. Again, melanin lives within the cortex of the hair shaft. We talked about that. So if you want to know which part of the hair shaft determines the color, cortex. Then heat and chemical resistance. It is so massively important that you do not play in chemicals, because if you are not properly educated on the cortex of the human hair shaft and you start playing around in hair color, I guarantee you are going to ruin your hair. And the disulfide bond of the hair shaft is the bond that once it's broke, girl, it's broke. Like, that's it. You gotta cut it off and start all over. You can't put it back together. And Olaplex is great, and other bond reconstructors are great. There are a lot of them. Olaplex is my favorite. I don't use all of them. I pick one. You should pick one. But Olaplex is great because Olaplex helps to increase and double those bonds so that they're reinforced before you ever do anything to your hair, so it won't break. And then it can help you reinforce some of those bonds before they're destroyed 1000%. But if your hair is already falling out your head and you okay. Next up is going to be the medulla. The medulla of the hair shaft is a part that everybody does not have. Everyone does not have a medulla. Normally, if you are somebody with naturally thin hair, most of the time you're someone who does not have a medulla. It's the innermost layer of the hair shaft. It is a hollow core of the hair shaft, and most of the time it's just lightly packed. It's mostly packed with loosely packed irregular cells. I know that sounds weird, but that's the way that they always explained it. Just like every other one of the key constituents in the medulla is keratin. Just like the other layers, the medulla is made of keratin, except for it's just not as tightly packed and condensed and structured as the other layers. Second one, this is funny, but it ain't nothing else in there but air in the medulla. Air is what's in there. The medulla may contain air pockets in the absence of the cells within the medulla, or in some minor cases where the medulla is just completely underdeveloped or not developed at all. This contributes to the overall lightness, body, and airy feel of the hair. While the medulla doesn't really contribute anything to the overall structure of hair, it will help to provide structural support, especially in thicker hair and really thick hair. Normally, people who have extremely thick hair all have medullas. The airspace within the medulla contributes to thermal insulation. This provides some degree degree of protection against fluctuating temperatures within the hair. When you're having extreme temperature changes, as long as you're using products properly and not packing them on, the medulla aids the hair at not holding on to heat and getting heat damage. This is why it's so important not to pack the hair with oil before you use a flat iron, because as you apply the flat iron to the oil, it cooks it like chicken, and when it cooks it like chicken, you put the medulla in the overdrive. And then if you have thinner hair, you most likely don't even have a medulla, so you getting heat damage is something that happens really fast because there's no medulla there to control or to diminish slightly the amount of heat that you're using, especially if you have thinner, low porosity hair that has a cuticle this tight that never releases heat. You have a cuticle this tight that is a little slower, not never, it's a little slower at releasing the heat. Plus there's no medulla to fluctuate or to control that heat with those air pockets. I hope this makes sense. And this is why I'm always telling y'all that hair care is not just as simple as products, you picking up a product and putting it in a bottle. I need y'all to watch some of the videos that I make, just like the video that I showed y'all yesterday. Go watch that. Some of y'all favorite people to listen to are on other channels asking them what's their PEEPEE recipe for their hair. So I really want y'all to get into the science of hair, break down all three of these layers of the hair shaft. I've given you a lot of information, but it's still, Google is owned by YouTube. After you watch this video, go watch my other ones in the description and stuff. But then when you get done, get off of YouTube and then start doing your own research. This is just the starting point for you to know that where you're currently at right now, you need to go clear the other way, because it's not. I love it when you guys ask questions or make statements. So this statement was made about this video, but about this question was asked about the medulla of the hair shaft, and oh my god, I love that you asked that question, but no, that's not true. Check the blog post in the description box below to see what I have to say about your question and what I have to say about what lives inside of the medulla. Okay, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening to me break down all of the different layers. Now that you understand all of that, the key constituents of your hair shaft and all of its functions, then in this case, wouldn't it be safe to say that we have kind of had the wrong focus this whole entire time, and the thing that we are supposed to be focused on is what things are going to help us with the inner layer of our hair? Because as we've talked about, all of the hundreds and hundreds of dollars, probably thousands of dollars at this point over the years that you've spent on hair products, you are buying hair products because you are under the impression that the hair products that you put on your hair are somehow going to affect the cortex, the medulla, the cuticle, and all of those things, but it's not true. Let's get into. Now, we've had previous videos before about the lock method and all of those different things, so watch those below. But as you've learned about the three different layers of the hair shaft and all of their functions, right? Let me know in the comments below, don't all of these functions of the hair shaft sound like the same exact things that you guys are looking to products to do? You don't really need them. Your hair shaft is able to do all of those things, but if the cuticle is completely covered and saturated in product, the cortex and the medulla cannot do its job because it's weighed down with products. The only thing that you doing something like the lock method, sleeping in conditioner, wetting your hair on a regular basis, you putting one of the first natural plastics on your hair every day for 30 days, all it's going to do is create massive artificial layers on the hair's cuticle. And by doing that, you make all of the different purposes or all of the different patterns that we know that the hair shaft is supposed to complete, you make all of them really hard, really hard for the hair shaft to be able to complete. So this is why it's so very important for you to keep it simple, right? All of these hacks, I know it sounds great, but what you end up doing, weakening these bonds in the hair. When we're talking about the disulfide bond again is the one permanent linkage within your hair. So if you straighten your hair too much, we just talked about different levels of porosity. We talked about different levels of porosity in the video linked in the description box below. But let's say you're a person who has thinner, your hair is a little on the thinner side, so you most likely don't have a medulla, right? Or let's say you don't have a medulla, and then you've been team natural for however many years. You've been team natural for however many years, and let's say you've been adding coconut oil to your hair on a regular basis. Coconut oil is protein linking. What I always say linking is protein seeking, meaning it literally seeks protein and then it binds to it, which is why certain chemists online told y'all to put coconut oil in your hair, because as a chemist they understand that the coconut oil binds to protein, and they also understand that your hair is a protein. So they're like, oh, coconut oil binds to protein, the hair is a protein, it'll stop water from leaving. Perfect. But because she's a chemist and not a cosmetologist, because she's a chemist and not a trichologist, because she's a chemist and not a dermatologist or any type of scalp specialist, she doesn't understand what the long-term effects are of doing that, right? So when you put coconut oil on the hair, it does what it's supposed to do. It binds to protein. Your hair is a protein, right? We just talked about that. So when it binds to the hair shaft, it locks in all of the moisture that's in the hair. It locks in the little bit of moisture and hydration that does live within the cortex of the hair shaft, and it just makes it an unfavorable environment for the natural rhythm that your cortex, medulla, and cuticle wants to follow. So then if you go into a hair salon, they don't know you've been putting coconut oil on your hair every day. So then they go in, use a regular shampoo, and then get ready to put a flat iron on it. You have thinner hair, so you don't have a medulla, you have no extra air pockets to disperse some of that heat that's around, and you probably have either low porosity hair for real or self-imposed high porosity hair because you're always putting oils and butters on the hair, or you've been doing the flaxseed challenge every 30 days. So then what ends up happening is you get heat added to your hair, stuff ends up heating up, and instead of the cuticle being able to do what it normally does, which is open to receive a little bit of the heat, temporarily move those bonds around, and then release the heat that it's not using, is not able to do that because you have all of this coconut oil that is bound to the protein that is your hair, and then you heat it up. Girl, it's like frying chicken. And not only are you heating it up, normally when you use a flat iron on hair that's not like saturated in oil, right? You put the flat iron on it, and then once the flat iron's off of it, the heat evaporates, and then boom, you on to the next one. Like seconds later, it doesn't take the hair that long to cool. But if you're somebody who overloads their hair with products, or you have stuff still linked to the cortex and to the inner layers of your hair, then it's going to be hot a lot longer, and most likely you're going to get heat damage because your hair is thinner, so you don't have a medulla. There's nothing there to help you disperse some of that heat, and then there you go. This is why some women can straighten their hair on a regular basis and it's not a big deal because they have a medulla, their hair is thick, it can disperse the heat. But then you have other women that are like, I can't use it because when I do, my hair fall out. Well, That's because you don't understand the hair's cortex. And if you are a person who does not have a medulla because your hair is thinner, then there are certain professional products that are literally formulated just for you to combat that problem. The Team Natural products are not formulated to combat those problems because they don't even know that it exists. In this video here, I already let y'all know that most of the brands that y'all are using are the same exact companies with different labels on them. Right now, if you have $600 in your pocket right now, I swear to God, you can start your own product line right now. Link in the description box below. And you ain't gonna give me the $600. That's how much it's gonna cost to get to order the bottles, to get into some private labeling, baby. Like, let me know in the description box below if y'all want me to do. Let me know in the description box below if you want me to do a full video on private labeling, because I will. It don't take no money out of my pocket because I don't do any private labeling like that. So y'all doing private labeling isn't gonna hurt me. So let me know in the description if you want me to, and I will, because I don't think y'all believe fat meat is greasy. Most of y'all don't believe fat meat is greasy till it start falling off the bone, just like my hair. Ain't nobody believe fat meat was greasy till it start falling off the bone. Now it's falling off the bone. Everybody be like, oh, Sin, you are so right. Can I come over there and play with your pet giraffe? No, you cannot play with my giraffe. Make sure, if you haven't done so already, you go ahead, baby, and sign up for CDTV, okay? CDTV stands for Send Out TV. Coming to you direct, right? This is something that is going to be on my own platform, www.sinsmith.guru. And once you get there, you follow the link in the description box below. And once you get there, follow the promptings on the screen and you can join my free network. Now, we will have free videos on CDTV, but the really deep informational content is going to be paid, right? We have a paid subscription that is very affordable, okay? And then we have an extended tier up. Because I do not do one-on-one consultations, I am going to provide something a little special for you in those tiers. So yes, if you are wondering, Guru VIP is on its way back. I love y'all so much. As you begin doing the research on everything that I just said, especially when you begin to do even more research on the cuticle, what I need you to do is go into all of the patterns and routines that all of your unaccountable Team Naturalers have been telling y'all to do, like apple cider vinegar. And watch this video here where I explained to you years ago how apple cider vinegar is a vegetable acid that breaks down the cuticle. Then go watch this video where I teach you all about the epicuticle layer, which is the layer on top of the hair's cuticle that reinforces it. Your body is a city, and by you constantly packing your hair full of oils and butters and leaving your hair wet all the time, you lower and weaken your body's defenses. So if you want to stop doing that, then make sure you check the video link in the description box below, and make sure your post notifications are on, so you're back for part 2 where we go even deeper. But part 2 will only be found on CDTV, baby, so make sure you're over there.